Good morning. Today we are going to discuss basic operations concept of computers of subject computer architecture and organizations. Previous lecture we have discussed what are the basics input output devices, memory. Now what is the basics operations concept of computers? To perform any operations we require different type of steps. Here we have one example, add LOCA to R0. What happened here? To perform a given task, an appropriate program consists of list of instructions stored in the memory. If you want to perform any types of operations, that operation must consist of the list of instructions containing memory. Individual instructions are brought from the memory into the processor. While the executions of that program or while the executions of that particular instructions, we need to brought into memory. What are the instructions we have into the processor, which execute the specified operations. Now, data to be stored in memory. Consider one example, add LOCA to R0. We have to, where it has two important part, that is called as add is called as operations, and LOC and R0 is called as operands. That means any instructions consist of operations and opcode. It need to perform the additions of A and R0 and store in the result R0. Now how it is happen? How it is going to perform in the processor? While performing it or while performing the instructions, we have different types of registers. Instruction register, PC, that is called as a program counter, MAR is called as a memory address registers, MDR, that is called as a memory data registers, R0, R1, that is called as a general purpose register, which is going to use during the executions of program to store the data. Control register, which has operations to control the overall coordinations of, that is called as input and output. ALU, which has very important part to perform the arithmetic and logical units. Now how it is process? We know that while performing any operations we require a data bus. What are the different types of operations going to perform? The data and address going which use the data buses. Without data bus we cannot do. Now how operations going to perform? What is the functions of each and every register? Now here we have the instruction register. What is the functions of instruction register? Here we can see the instruction register IR. The functions of instruction register is store the instructions. What are the instructions we have? That instruction stored in instruction register. What types of instruction is it? Which is currently going to be executed in memory. जो memory में executions के लिए या execute होने वाली है, that instruction has to be stored in instruction register. Now, second part here we have that is called as a program counter. What is the use of program counter? If we consider the one example, if we have the one instruction that is called as a instructions and B instructions in a queue. While performing the A instructions, the PC point to the first instruction that is called as A, which is stored in the instruction register. Now, afterward, it again point to the instruction B, which need to be executed in memory. That is the functions of PC, program counter. What is the program counter? Program counter is a registers which is store the address of register which going to be executed in memory. What types of address? It is a next address. What are the instruction going to be executed? After that, what are the instruction going to be executed? That address has to be stored in the PC. And what indicate the MAR? MAR indicate the memory address registers. If we need to access the data from the memory, because all the data or instructions stored in the memory. Now, the memory data need to be accessed to perform the executions. So how we can access? It required the address. We require the memory address where the instructions or data get to be stored. Now that address we can access with the help of MAR. What are the PC address is stored in the MAR, that is called as the memory address registers. What indicate memory address registers? Memory address register contain the address of locations where the data or instruction to be stored or has to be stored. Now, what is the functions of MDR? So what are the address in memory indicated by MAR? It contains the instructions or data. That instructions or data need to be executed in main memory. It has to be accessed with the help of memory data register. That means what are the instruction and data we have, it is stored in MDR. And what is the copy of instructions and data that is again stored in instruction register, and that is going to be executed in memory. Now here we have the control registers. What is the functions of control register? What are the different types of input operations, output operation, that is called as a read and write operations we require during the MDR or while using the MDR? That overall coordinations is controlled by the control units. That means what type of signal need to be sent. Either we need the read signal, write signal, what coordination, what types of signal we require. The signal is sent with the help of bit. Whether it required to read operations, it send the read signal. Whether it required to write operations, it required to send the write operation. And again here we can see the different types of AND registers, general purpose registers, that is R0 to R1. Now, what is the ALU? The ALU is to perform arithmetic and logical operations. What are the different types of operations we have? It shows the overall coordinations of memory, and it contains the different types of registers. Now we can see the individually what is the functions of each and every registers. First registers, here we have the instruction register. Already we have discussed what do we mean by instruction register. Hold the instruction that is currently being executed. Now second types of program counter. What is the use of program counter? This is another types of specialized registers that keep the track of executions of the program. What are the instructions going to be executed? It keep the track of that instruction or that address which is going to be executed. It contains the memory address of the next instruction to be fetched and executed. That is the functions of program counter. What here we have discussed? Instruction registers, PC. Now, very important part is called as MAR and MDR. What is called as a memory address register and what is called as a memory data register? This point is also we have already discussed. It hold the address of the locations to be accessed. What it hold? It hold the address of location to be accessed. That means where I need the data, that data contain the any specific address. That address contained in memory address registers. Now, what is the use of memory data registers? What are the address pointed by the PC or MAR that contain the instructions or data? That instructions and data need to be executed in memory. What is the functions of MDR? What are the address in MAR? That MAR point the instructions and the data. That instructions and data need to be executed in memory. Now it is assessed with the help of MDR, and it required the read and write operations. That's why MDR is always two bidirectionals. Why it is bidirectional? It required the read and write operations. It contains the data to be written into readout of the address locations. What types of address locations? The MAR hold the address. If suppose it hold the 5000 address, so that address may contain the instructions or data. That instructions or data need to be read. That is the functions of MDR, memory data registers. Now here we have discussed all the basics operations of computers: instruction registers, PC, MAR, MDR, general purpose register, R0 to R1, control registers, ALU, memory. Now we are going to summarize it. What is the functions of instruction registers? Instruction register which store the instruction which is currently going to be executed. Now, what is indicator PC? PC means program counter. It hold the address of locations. What types of locations? Next address. Now, MAR contain the memory address registers. What indicate? MAR contain the memory address registers which contain the instructions and data need to be executed in, and that instructions and data can be accessed with the help of MDR. What is the functions of MDR? MDR may contain the data or instructions, or it read the instructions or data from the memory which is address contained in MAR. Now that MDR contain the instructions or data, that instructions and data is stored in the instruction register, use the R0 to R1 registers and perform the arithmetic and logic, send to arithmetic and logic unit to perform the operations. Now what is the functions of the control units? Control units coordinate overall functions, that is whether it require read operation, write operations, that is summarizations of basic computers units. So thank you.